Welcome to episode 72 of Give Yourself Some Leeway with me, your host, Eugene Lee. 365 days ago, 22nd of August, 2022. That's when I started Give Yourself Some Leeway. And I can't believe on the podcast's first anniversary how quickly time has flown by this past year. In this episode, I want to take a moment just to reflect on the incredible journey of this past year and share some of the valuable lessons that I've learned along the way. So whether you're starting out your first podcast, or maybe you just want to take that leap, embrace that opportunity and see where it takes you, then this episode is for you. When I started out with Give Yourself Some Leeway, I initially thought it would just be a solo podcast. I would document my own burnout recovery journey and hope that would resonate with someone. I never intended that I would have 50 guests on the show with a vision of having 100 guests by the end of the year, talking about their personal experiences with stress, overwhelm, and how we can break the stigma around mental health in the workplace. I had no idea how much about podcasting there was yet to learn. Even from the podcasting perspective alone, I started off just recording this sitting in my car office, as I like to call it. I just stuck on my headphones, sat in the driver's seat, and started recording my thoughts and stopping every 10 seconds to gather my thoughts and to calm my breathing so that I didn't frantically go through the episode in one breath. So in the past year, I learned so much about video editing, audio editing, and trying to edit the episode so it had a better flow. It takes a lot of time and effort, and that learning curve is steep. So I guess the first key takeaway or the first lesson that I learned from podcasting was that you need to embrace the learning curve. You have to understand that you're starting from zero, and that's a good place to start. And embrace that learning process. There was even a few episodes. I had one day where I was trying to batch produce 3 or 4 episodes. And I sat down, set up my mic and everything, and had it clamped up here. And I just said, look, I'm going to record all the episodes, do one batch, and then schedule them for the next 2 weeks. And I recorded them, and I was like, okay, that's me sorted. Time to go editing. And as soon as I went into editing, I looked at the camera, no audio. Looked at the mic in the video and realized that the button was flashing. The microphone had been muted for the 4 episodes. Absolutely mortified. I was like, what a waste of 3 hours of my time. And then I took a step back and was like, am I going to go back and do it again? And I felt like that this was such a waste of 3 hours, but it was 3 hours that taught me the lesson to always check my audio, always check my microphone before I start recording. And these are the important lessons you learn. It is a steep learning curve at some points, kind of goes up and down, but it can be a steep learning curve, but you need to embrace it, because what better way to learn than by just taking action and learning from those mistakes? So, yes, in a nutshell, lesson number 1 is embrace that learning process and be patient with yourself as you grow. Yes, you're going to make mistakes. Yes, you're probably going to fail along the way, but you need those failures in order to grow. The next lesson is being consistent. Consistency is key. When I first started, I just produced about 4 episodes sharing my first key lessons, the life-changing lessons that I learned from my burnout journey. But then I found it hard. I couldn't stick to a regular schedule, and I was releasing episodes as they came to me rather than holding myself accountable and making episodes every week or every 2 weeks. And between August and December, I felt like I had let myself down and my audience down by only producing 10 episodes in the space of 4 months. And even at that, some of them felt a bit rushed and not at the highest quality or the highest standard that I wanted them to be. So I made the commitment in January 2023 that I was going to be more consistent with releasing episodes for Give Yourself Some Leeway. And that consistency has been the backbone of the podcast's success in 2023. I went from 10 episodes in December to 72 episodes by August. And that isn't possible unless you hold yourself accountable and expect a certain level of reliability from yourself. To stay accountable and create that content consistently for your audience. It's crucial because you're holding yourself to a higher standard. And yeah, definitely stay consistent with your content, and it keeps you up to date as well with what's on people's minds. Following on from that, next lesson is to listen to your audience. And getting that feedback is just about as important as anything else, because engaging through social media, emailing them, just reaching out to them personally, and any comments that you get back, whether it be on social media or directly if someone DMs you, it's the most invaluable feedback you can get. First of all, knowing that someone else has taken the time out of their day to listen, whether it be over their morning coffee or maybe they're on their morning commute and they listen in and they take part in the conversation. They go back and be like, you know what, that did resonate with me. You know what, that was a great idea. You know what, I didn't agree what you just said, and this is what I've always known. What's your opinion on that? We're opening the conversation. We're having a discussion. And that was one of the reasons why I started the podcast in the first place, was to open a space for these conversations that not many people are having or not comfortable having, that we're normalizing talking about our mental health, normalizing talking about our self-awareness, self-compassion, and self-care. So remember, when it comes to making your podcast, your audience is your biggest asset, and their input can help you shape and change the direction of your podcast. The next lesson was embracing creativity, because podcasting itself is a creative medium. It's essential. You need to let your creativity flow freely, because if you stay too rigid in your structure, it can feel very robotic and automated. Now, it might suit for certain models. Maybe people like a strict routine in their podcast, but being open to new formats and experimenting with different topics, maybe collaborating with guests that you normally wouldn't have considered, it can give a fresh and exciting dynamic to the podcast. And it's something that opens the conversation more. Maybe you've been very dead set on what you want to talk about, and you only focus, yes, you niche down and focus on that one topic. But it's nice to get an insight from people with different backgrounds and different work cultures, or a different perspective of life completely, and having that discussion, seeing their point of view. And I think that adds a fresh new perspective to the podcast. So embrace that creativity, have that openness. Next, there are a lot of challenges when it comes to podcasting, especially technical difficulties. I've had my fair share, if not more than my fair share of technical difficulties. And creative blocks, the biggest creative block happened to me back in January when I felt like I couldn't go further with the podcast. I was having such a mental block on what I wanted to share with my audience. And that's when I overcame it by seeing that people didn't resonate 100% with my burnout story and my journey. So I realized I'm not the only person to experience this. I'm not the only person who might be willing to talk about their stresses, their overwhelm, and their challenges. So I reached out to potential guests, asking them would they like to share their story, how they overcame their burnout, their stress, and obstacles, and how they would help someone else on a similar journey. And from there, the podcast moved leaps and bounds, and it's where it is today. So every obstacle that comes in your way, for me, it was just that massive mental block. Technical difficulties all along the way. I don't even know where to begin, especially with mic difficulties and and acoustics and and even editing, trying to edit the whole editing process. It was a massive learning curve, but overcoming these challenges and just accepting that perfectionism, getting 100% perfectionism is not the way. Taking action, whether it be 60, 70% of how you would like it, is a lot better than inaction because you're waiting for 100% perfection. Overcoming these challenges presents a lot of opportunities for you to grow. And ultimately, over time, makes you a better podcaster. The next lesson is the power of networking, because reaching out to the larger community in podcasting is a massive game changer. So whether that's getting fellow guests on, or reaching out to industry experts in your niche, and it just opens up so many new doors that I would never have considered before. And I've gained such valuable insights. Being open to having guests on the show has brought me more joy than I could have ever realized, because I don't think I would have had those conversations if I didn't have Give Yourself Some Leeway. If I didn't have it pushing me forward to want to get that conversation or to get that insight from industry leaders, from corporate coaches, from authors and entrepreneurs. And I'm not sure if they would have been as willing to have that conversation if it wasn't in a podcast format. I think it came out more naturally in the podcast conversation. So I am so grateful for the conversations that I've had over the past year. And I'm looking forward to doing it 10 times over, because it just fuels the fire within me in getting that message out there and opening this space for discussion. And again, just on top of that, again, the next lesson after networking all these people and being grateful for them so much is to celebrate the milestones along the way. It's the first year of Give Yourself Some Leeway. It's the first birthday of Give Yourself Some Leeway, 22nd of August. And I realized the importance along the way of celebrating all the milestones, from the first play, from the 50th play of the podcast to the 100th play. I reached 100 plays by Christmas last year. And that was a big moment for me. I was like, okay, 100 people, or at least 20, 30, 40 people have listened to at least one or two episodes. And I was like, okay, if these people are tuning in, they're probably going to expect more of the episode or more of the podcast. So I was like, I'm going to celebrate this win, and it's going to encourage me to push for more episodes. And by recognizing each small milestone along the way, it helps me keep track of the numbers, see what works for people as well, and also pushes me forward every day, celebrating all those small wins. That this is a growth opportunity for the podcast. So not only does it boost my morale, but it also helps me recognize with every episode I release and with every listener that gets in touch that all that growth, all that effort deserves recognition. And it is my mission to involve all of my audience in the journey and help them along their journey too. So I hope I didn't ramble on too long. I really just wanted to share this heartfelt gratitude I have for all of you who tune in. If it wasn't for you listening and giving your support and your feedback, I don't know where Give Yourself Some Leeway would be today. Probably gathering some cobwebs back last January. So it is for you, the listeners, for all the guests who joined the show as well. I am grateful for you sharing your valuable insights. And here's to many more great conversations and meaningful connections through 2023 and 2024 and so on. Until next time, if you want to take this deeper, you can reach out to me at giveyourselfsomeleeway.com and book a call. If you click on the coaching in the top corner, you can book a call with me, or scroll down to the bottom. I'm sure there's an option there too. And let's just have a chat and see where it goes. So until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep being awesome. Love you guys. Take care.